Welcome to Conversations on God with my friend David. We're going to be talking today, drum roll please, about human programming. Surprise. How tell whether we have good or bad programming. And this ties into the concepts we have, right? Isn't that basically what you're talking about? And how, even though it's part of the illusion, so to speak, man, our concepts and our programming that gives us our concepts or our perceptions is what gives us our experience that we call life. And we can change our programming. Can we change our programming? Can we have a better experience by adjusting and updating, shifting our concepts?
Yeah.
Is that what you meant by that?
Yeah. You can only change your programming if you believe you can change your programming. If you believe you can't, yeah, you'll be right.
Oh, shit.
If you believe you can, you're right.
Yeah.
Right. But it just struck me a couple weeks ago that human beings are programmable entities. And I think that's a huge part of the battle that's been going on the planet is those that are determined to manipulate the planet, realize how programmable humans are, and they're doing their best to program them towards their own ends, right? So classically, our programming is through culture, through religion, right? Through your parents, right? So and I realized it's very easy to tell whether you got good programming or bad programming. It's super easy to tell. The more unhappy you are, the more bad programming you have. Just like a computer, when a computer is running a bunch of viruses, it's not going to work very well. Same with human beings. The more bad programming or viruses you have running, the more unhappy you are. It's just that simple. You don't have to look very far. But if you think about it, in most people's lifetime, you run into very happy people, somewhat happy people, not happy at all, unhappy people, and miserable people. And it's all directly related to your programming. Your programming is your belief systems. Right? So what programs your belief systems? Well, your religion, your culture, right? The society you live in, your parents, and then subgroups within that society, right? It's all programming. And it's really interesting because Baba talked about that ancient India had what he called the sacred culture of ancient India. And all that was a culture where they had a lot of really good programming that people were exposed to from the time they were little. So you ended up with a lot of happy, highly functional people, right? So look around you today. I mean, it's hard to find people that are happy. It's certainly hard to find people that are happy most of the time. So you can have so-so programming and you're happy when things aren't too bad. But the more difficult their circumstances, the more the flaws in your programming show up, right? Till finally, under tremendous stress, the only people that stay functioning are people that have pretty solid programming. And you look around today, you put a little bit of stress on a lot of people, and they just fall apart. They just fall apart.
And the American way is actually pretty backwards too, because American way is accomplishment equals happiness, and you end up America-wise. I just looked at this report of it was a contentment and happiness scale of success, and America is like way down below. It's like
Well, because what happened, what crept
way out down on the list.
Yeah, what crept into America was, and I believe it was programmed in by the powers that be, consumerism.
Mm.
That's when America took a real turn for the worse. Whereas happiness is only achieved through having material things. So that immediately puts tons of people in a position where they will have a hard time being happy.
Right.
And then the more they look at people who have, the more unhappy they become. So that was a programming that crept into America with don't know exactly when, but it's I think a lot of it was programmed by corporations that are trying to sell their goods. So they show people that are really happy that have their particular good. It's going to make you happy. So I think then the rest of the advertising agencies caught on to that. So pretty soon they're all saying you really are only going to be really happy if you have our stuff,
Yeah. Well,
right?
the 50s and the 60s, that's like the Mad Men era, I think, when they're all smoking cigarettes and figuring out what's the big ad they're going to sell stuff. That was the big push that we figured out, wow, there's a lot of money in convincing people that they need something.
Yeah,
And then mass media really took hold as well, the ability to get in every household,
sure,
start telling them little whispers of what's going to make them happy. And
sure.
that was probably a big, big turning point, I would
Big,
imagine.
big turning point because I remember hearing or reading this guy. He grew up in the Depression, and him and his friends lived out in the country, and they were all dirt poor. One pair of jeans with holes in them, mom's patching, and
Yeah.
barefoot. They might not even had a pair of shoes in the summer. And they're playing stick ball, and get some fishing line, just go fishing, tie it to a stick, and just he remembers there was a truck that came by that they had collected a lot of donations to hand out to the people who need them. And he said the truck comes by, and the people on the truck with all these things, I guess, like blankets and shoes and things like that. And the people from the truck go, "We're here to help people that are really poor. Do you have anybody really poor here?" And they looked at each other and they scratched their head. They go, "No, no, we don't have anybody really poor here. Maybe down the town, down the road." Meantime, they're dirt poor, but they didn't consider themselves poor. They were happy, they were living fulfilling lives. People helped each other, people shared with each other. When somebody's house was kind of falling down, all the men would break out their carpentry gear and go there and pitch in and fix it up for them, and everybody helped each other out. Somebody had just maybe killed a deer, and somebody else had some potatoes in their garden, and they'd have like a little neighborhood party. Everyone would bring something. They'd bring their guitars and their banjos, and the kids would be playing outside catching fireflies, and the grown-ups would cook and play music, and they had a good time. Some of the people that went through that said it was some of the happiest times of their lives. So that's really before materialism really kicked in this country. But that's just one thing. Once you have people in positions of power realize how programmable human beings are, then they start going about trying to figure out how to program them to the advantage of the people that had the power or wanted power. So then that extends also political, right? Any human endeavor. I mean, you even I dare say some religious organizations, they realize there's tremendous power in programming people to uh, come to them for their how to live. And of course, the classic way to seal that, at least in the Christian church, is you screw up, you're going to burn in hell. So there's nothing like a carrot and a stick. You know, here's the carrot. You'll go to heaven if you listen to us and follow what we tell you to do. And then the stick is, well, you burn in hell if you don't. So you put those two things together in some form for a human being, and it could be, okay, you want to be beautiful and popular, then you're going to wear our clothes or put on our makeup, and if you don't, you'll just be one of those ugly, ignored people, right? So I mean, carrot and the stick,
Yeah.
carrot and the stick. So the sacred culture of India that my teacher referred to was centering you in who you truly are, which is a piece of God, right? And a piece of God. And the more you manifest thoughts, words, and deeds from that understanding, the more you start to harmonize your conscious and subconscious mind with your superconscious mind, or you could say you start to harmonize these lower levels of your awareness with higher levels of yourself, like your soul, right? Classic example is if you do something kind and unselfish to help somebody just because you see the need, how do you feel? You feel good, right? Because you're harmonizing lower aspects of your consciousness with higher aspects of your being, and that will always feel good. How does it feel when you do something small, mean, and unkind to somebody? Not good. Not good until you get so lost in the world that getting back at people gives you more satisfaction than pain, right? So that's the whole thing. But I mean, once again, it goes back to, how do you know what kind of programming you have? It's like, well, how happy are you? How
Yeah.
much peace do you have? How much joy? How well do you handle difficulties? Right? Does it all fall apart the moment there's some pressure in your life? Well, then you got some pretty shallow programming, right? So everything's great as long as you got money in the bank and you got lots of friends and your health, but there's no guarantee you'll be able to keep any one of those.
I don't remember her name, but there was this child psychologist. She was called the trash bag lady, and she would go in and she would hire her for to help their kids that were whatever def deficiency or disorder that they had. And the first thing that she did was bring in trash bags and clear out, especially the kid room, everything but a handful of toys. Cleared it out. And she would go through the house too and clear out. And if the family wasn't willing to throw them away, she at least made them put it in the garage or put it in storage.
Right.
And just that psychological negation of all these layers of supposedly what was going to make the kid happy, right? It cleared it out for the kid, and often the kid's behavior instantly changed. They would sit down with like blocks. you know they would throw away these complicated, elaborate, expensive toys and leave them with blocks, and then the kid would be happy.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's us too. At a grown up, we're still trying to add these things that are going to make us happy, as opposed to taking things away and
Yeah.
being still, for example, or some version in between of simplicity.
Well, I remember Yogananda used to say, a high thinking and simple living. Same with Gandhi. Gandhi's, same type of thing. High thinking, high ethics, high morality, and simple living. And my teacher had a program called Putting Ceiling on Desires. He goes, listen, you don't have to give up everything and just walk around one pair of pants and shirt. He said, but just put a limit on it. Don't just keep chasing your desires, because it's like the 12-headed hydra or whatever it is. For every one you cut off, two sprout in its place. Desires just keep going and going, and you'll never fulfilling your desires. The lie that's communicated, at least on a subconscious level, is if you just get this, you'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just, whatever it is, a new car or whatever it is, get it, and maybe you're happy for a little while, but then the unhappiness sinks in, because that will never fulfill you. On the other hand, if you start to, let's just say you've always felt the calling to maybe help with the homeless or coach a kid's soccer team, right? And you have to put aside some of your, maybe whatever your time you like to play.
I get rich over here, and here go coach those damn kids.
And so now you're putting a few hours in where you're coaching kids, and you help kids to uh, feel better about themselves, and have more confidence and be happier people, and you teach kids how to how to treat other people a little better, as teammates, and be encouraging. And before you know it, man, this is just the highlight of your week. I remember seeing some like professional football players, right? And some of our professional sports athletes are some of the most spoiled people we have in this country. And I remember a lot of times they'd be encouraged to do some social work by their team because it's just good PR. But I remember seeing some of these guys, they went out and they spent a day helping underprivileged kids, and they really liked it. And before you know it, they just got pulled into it. And for them, it was just transformative. They never felt happier than turning around and helping these kids who really needed help. So once again, you're doing thoughts, words, and deeds that's more in harmony with your eternal nature. And that's, as you start attuning to your eternal nature, that's where peace, joy, and happiness resides. Jesus put it this way. He said, what have you gained what have you profit if you gain the whole world but lose your soul? Well, you're not going to lose your soul. You are the soul, but you can lose your awareness of it when your conscious mind drops to such a low vibrational level that you're not getting any communication with your spirit, your soul at all. So you have everything, but you're freaking miserable because your vibration has dropped so low, you no longer have any communion with your high self or God. Right. So, I mean, this is what I'm saying. And then, then what are some of the programming that you can reprogram that you become happier? Well, to me, it's like a religious conversion. Let's just say somebody is just, they're just a miserable human being, or drug addicted, or whatever. And they're just, life is horrible. And then they hear the gospel of Jesus, and they look into it, and then maybe they get baptized. And a true conversion is, they felt the high vibration of Jesus. They felt that high vibration. You could feel it when you read his words, right? And you are tuned to that now. And you begin to reject low vibrational patterns of that hatred. You say, I don't want to hate anymore. I forgive all those people, right? And then you start to love, right? And then you practice treating others the way you wish to be treated, right? And that's high vibrational, right? And then you maybe practicing Jesus in everyone you contact, and that's even higher vibrational, right? So all these are programs that a true religious conversion, it could happen in a moment where they say, yeah, in that moment, my whole life changed. Well, what was it that changed? What changed is you experienced high vibrational patterns through Jesus, and you felt called to that because it just felt so much better than your old ways of thinking and being. So that's a case where in a moment you can begin to reprogram how you think. But that's what it boils down to. You begin to reprogram how you think. And maybe up until that point, you were the type of guy, man, if somebody does me wrong, I'll pay him back tenfold, right? And that was how you lived. And then you're also, oh yeah, I feel like nothing, but if I have a great car and I'm wearing all these expensive clothes, I'll feel a little better about myself, right? And so now you got to try to get that. And none of that's working. Where now you have this religious conversion where now you're practicing forgiveness and kindness and telling the truth and being honest and treating other people like you'd like to be treated, and practicing seeing God, seeing Jesus in everyone. Yeah, you're operating off a whole different programs. And of course, the results are you're much happier. You're much happier. So this, I would tell anyone who's listening to this, if you still have a lot of lack of peace or unhappiness and no joy in your life, begin to examine how you think, right? How do you deal with other people? I would suggest practice seeing them as children of God, regardless of the state they're in, because you have children of God that are attuning to God, right? And then they're kind, loving, joyful, happy people. And then you have children of God that have a lot of bad programming running, and they're just freaking miserable, unhappy, either fearful or angry or resentful or whatever. Practice still seeing them as a child of God that's kind of lost right now. And I'll tell you, one of the things that helps those people more than anything else is for you to see them as a lost child of God and have that love for them, right? And you don't even have to say a word, but just by you seeing them as a child of God, they feel that at some level, and it can help them move in the right direction.
This is the beauty of the path of devotion, right? It's an easy path because I don't have to I don't have to analyze and decipher who deserves it or not and what even that category is. All I have to concern myself is what would love do? I just want to love because I want to experience love. And so whoever in front of me, I'm loving
Right,
as if
right,
they're God, as is in a way,
right. And,
our,
and the trick is act appropriately, but love everyone. Love is never not appropriate. It's always appropriate. But that love is that feeling, that intention in your heart, seeing them as a child of God and holding that intent to them. May you find your way home. May you find your way home. May you begin to feel that peace and joy as you awaken to who you are. That's to me divine love. Then at that point, God may prompt you to speak or act uh, towards them in some way or not, right? But it's always best to listen to the promptings of God on what's the best thing to say or do. He might just tell you, you know what, I got this. Just love them and just keep walking, because that love will help. I remember Edgar Casey he said, anything done out of love will bear fruit eventually. Even a glass of water given from love will bear fruit eventually. So you don't decide how things have to be. You listen to the promptings of God within you on what's appropriate, but loving is always appropriate. And plus, if you practice seeing God in everyone and everything, it's tremendously purifying. It's tremendously purifying for your heart. And you begin to feel and see God more and more and more. Jesus said, blessed are the pure of heart, they shall see God. And I think I said before, I used to think, well, if you're just pure enough in your heart, one day you'll look up in the clouds and it's like, there he is, there he is. Can you see him? No. It's as your heart purifies, you begin to see God everywhere, in everyone, in everything, in all events, right? So it's a tremendous, joyful spiritual practice to practice at least every day, to look around and see this is all God in various stages of awakening and in various stages of evolution. Yeah. So, that's a really good practice. The other really high frequency practice is gratitude, especially gratitude to God. There's always something to be grateful for, right? Gratitude is a very high frequency practice. Forgiveness, forgive yourself and forgive others. Huge, right? Non-judgment, or more accurately, judging everything as a piece of God and worthy of love, right? Uh, what's some of the other ones? Well, those are the big ones. Treat others, treat us. So my teacher Bob said it's really easy to know what to do. He goes, Jesus gave a great technique. How would I want to be treated here? That you're never going to go wrong. Think like that. So you don't ever have to go, God, what do I do? Well, you just ask yourself, well, how would I want to be treated in this situation? Then treat others that way. You just do those fundamentals. Those fundamentals were so powerfully reprogram you that your experience of peace and joy and happiness will immediately begin to improve. And then the times when you find yourself unhappy, look to see which of your old programming did you slip back into. One of those, either judging or condemning or not loving or not forgiving or not seeing that person as a piece of God or God dwelling in them. You violated one of them, right? So then it becomes, you start getting greedy for being really happy and peaceful most of the you go, this is what I call the path of joy. It just sucks you in. It's like, I really like being happy. This is good stuff. So it's like my teacher said, he said, attachment to God breaks all your other attachments to the world. Well, that's attachment to God because you experience God as peace. You experience God as joy. You experience God as that happiness. So you become attached to God as those high frequency emotional states. So as you become attached to joy and love and peace, it breaks all your other attachments. Because let's just say you got a brand new Mercedes and you freak out every time a bug hits it, and you're freaked out about it all the time. Finally you go, you know what, I'm just going to trade that in for just a Honda Civic because I don't like it's pulling away my peace. I'm always freaking worried about that thing. So you turn it in, you get, just a nice little basic car. It's like, okay, now it doesn't interfere with your peace anymore, right? So that's what you'll find. You'll find that attachment to God as that peace and joy starts to break all your other attachments. Either you get rid of them or you don't care anymore. It's like, yeah, I got a nice car, it's nice, but if I had to go sell it tomorrow, it's fine. I don't, I'm not attached to it anymore, right? So it begins to break all your other attachments because that peace and that joy, you realize this is exactly what I'm looking for. That's why I got the car, because I thought it would bring me happiness, and it's just bringing me misery, right? So it starts to move you towards more simple living. You start to make your life simpler just because you got less headaches, less things to worry about, less things so you find that simple life becomes very attractive. It allows you to hold your peace and joy easier when you're not all stressed out about all this material stuff or positions or whatever. Let's just say you had a position you really, really wanted, whatever, in a job or political, whatever, and you get to the point where that really doesn't matter to you anymore. You're just doing it to serve. So they go, well, we're going to get you thrown out. It's like, yeah, throw me out. You do me a favor. It's a lot of work anyway, right? So you start becoming, as you lose all your attachments to the world, you become freer and freer and freer. And the ultimate attachment is your attachment to your loved ones and your own physical life. There's been saints. There's a classic story from India. There was this great saint living in the woods, and when Alexander the Great was coming through, conquering everything, he heard about this great saint. He wanted to hear from him, so he sent one of his advisors to go speak to him. So the advisor went to him, and the advisor was told what to say. And he goes, Alexander the great King Alexander would like you to speak to him. He goes, that's fine. Well, have him come on over here and I'll talk to him. He goes, no. He wants you to come and see him. He goes, no, I'm sorry. I'm just here, just communing with my creator in the woods. He goes, well, I was told if you refuse to cut your head off and bring it to him. And he goes, okay, take it. So he was told to say that as a test. So of course he didn't cut his head off. He left and he came back. And after he passed on to Alexander what the guy said, Alexander then came to see him because he knew he was the real McCoy. He was the real deal because he didn't even have attachment to his life. Yeah. So ultimately, when you no longer have attachment to your physical life, there's not much anybody can do with you at all. There's no real handle they can get a hold of. People get a hold of you by your attachments. That's how the world works. The more attachments you have, the easier it is to get a hold of you. and manipulate you. Because if you don't have any attachments except to God, you don't have to hold on to that. You know that's he's always with you. So it just moves you tremendously towards freedom. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And we hit about 30 minutes right there. So that'd probably be a good place to end it.
Good stuff, brother. Thank you.
Right. And just, just like I said, you can tell how much bad program you have by how unhappy you are. Start clearing out the old program. The best way to clear out the old programs is with the new positive programs. That automatically clears the old one. Don't try to struggle too hard clearing the old one. Just practice the new ones. The high vibrational programs start to just wash out the old programs, right? So you don't clear the darkness out of a room with a vacuum cleaner, a broom, and a garbage bag. You just turn the light on. That's how it works. All right, brother.